Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made these rock sliders for the old Willys Jeep. I don't know if I ever showed y'all these before or not, but these are some steps that one of the previous owners of this Jeep built for it, and honestly, they did a pretty dang good job. They broke the metal real nice. It's diamond plate, so it's got some grip to it when you put your foot on it. Obviously, like a stock Jeep, the step right here is way different. Honestly, I was thinking about going back stock with it. I was gonna cut these off, make something beefier, but something that looks stock. But now, honestly, I've kind of changed my mind because these look really cool. Somebody did a good job. They're really strong, they make a good step. And honestly, I've made this decision to keep them in like the last 5 minutes, and it's really jacking up my plans for rock sliders. First off, let me explain my ideal for how I'm gonna build these rock sliders. And it's not really my ideal, it's been done several times. Brennan Metcalf is kind of who I'm basing some of this off of. He just recently built a set. But the basic ideal is you get a piece of tube, and this tube is 1.5 inch by 4 inch by 1/8 inch wall. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna come up about 3/4 of an inch or so, both sides, make a cut down it, and you're gonna end up with these two J-shaped pieces. Now what you do with these J-shaped pieces, which this is just a scrap piece just for this example, but it's gonna bolt to the outside of the tub right here. So you'll have it bolted here, but you also have that lip, that bent piece up underneath, also providing support. Now here's where the problem comes in. Typically you go from wheel well to wheel well with this ideal right here, wraps around, and then you weld your steps into it. But because I'm choosing to keep these and I don't want to cut them off because they're really welded into the body, it would take a while to cut these off and clean everything up. I've got to figure out how to wrap this around and integrate it into the steps I've already got. All right, I'm going to ponder a minute on how I'm going to work around them steps. So in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and cut this steel up. I got this tube cut up here. Everything went just fine with that. Now some of y'all might be wondering why I use the cutoff wheel instead of the plasma cutter. With tubing like this, something with how they make it, it's already got some stress in it. And when you put a bunch of heat to it, like with the plasma cutter, it can do some really weird things. It can warp and bend and everything. And I've scrapped tube before because I got too hot with the plasma cutter. I also like the cutoff wheel because I can do nice straight cuts. I can follow that line real easy, which I know you can set up a guide and do all that. I'm not the master of the plasma cutter. I got these deburred though and cleaned up, so these are good to go. And while I was cutting these out, I have decided that these steps need to come off, whether I'm keeping them or not, which I think I am keeping them. The right way to do this is going to be to cut them off, do the whole wrap, and then weld those to this. So let's go ahead and fire back up the grinder and we'll get these things cut off. Well, y'all, this is what you get for doing things the right way. I had a feeling that there was going to be some work. I could see this rust spot, but all this right here is gone. And then, of course, I never put this back on. I never fixed this piece because I wasn't sure how I was going to mate up to this when I did my steps. But now you can see I've made some work for myself. I can't just put my rock sliders over this and hide all this because this is the floor pan right here. So all this needs to tie back in together. So really, I think I'm gonna have to cut a big piece out right here or something like that. Weld all this back in, fix all that back, and then we'll get back to doing the rock sliders. My biggest problem with the tub on this Jeep, and I think I've showed it in earlier videos, but I'll show y'all again. It's multiple layers of repairs and different skins of metal, I think there's very little original Jeep tub left. It's been skinned over. You can see the seam right there. So when I made my cut right here to get rid of all this rust and everything, right up in here, you can see that's the layer of Bondo that sandwiches like the old tub, the original tub, and the new tub together. And then like right here, that right there is an old screw that I guess somebody had Bondoed over or sanded down or something. And then this is just a big bubble of rust and Bondo and all kinds of junk. So I just wanted to show you all that. That's why I'm not worried about this thing being original, is because it's not original. It's a bunch of patchwork and Bondo. And every time I cut into something on it, I just find a bunch of this stuff. I just wanted to give you all the highlights of that. We're building rock sliders. We're not doing body work in this video. But I've got this all patched up now. It's fixed up pretty good. And then I had a little piece on that fender I'd never fixed. I went ahead and threw that on there. I did leave this little piece right here unfinished, but my rock sliders are going to cover that up, so I'm not worried about that. Now that we got that sorted out, let's go ahead and throw a rock slider up here and we'll see what we got to do next. All right, so the next thing it looks like we need to do is we're going to have to match the cut on this end with this fender so it all slides up right under each other. So we'll go ahead and mark that up, we'll cut that off, and then we might even see about going ahead and just maybe putting a couple bolt holes in this, and then we can figure out where we're going to bend it out. I got this thing clamped up here, and up underneath here, you're gonna have some floor supports you're gonna have to notch around. So I already notched around that one. And there'll be another one up here. Y'all's will probably look different than mine. I made mine out of some tube I split in half because I didn't want to pay for hat channel. Now that we got this thing up here, we got a little gap between the floor and the slider, maybe a 1/2 inch, 5/8, which is just fine. What we're getting into though is we're gonna have to bend this thing on around because it's hanging up on this lip right here. So it's probably not perfectly straight right now. So it looks like the body starts breaking right in here, and it's kind of hard to tell because like I said, this has been patched over, so it's not a real definite break, but I think that's where it's gonna start out. I need to make a mark right here, and we'll probably have to do like a little pie cut and maybe even break this edge to get this thing to bend on around. So this is actually a really important cut. If you get this bend wrong, you're probably gonna kind of scrap the whole piece. It's gonna be hard to get that bend out. You're gonna lose the nice clean look with this nice flat edge. So when I make cuts like this, I like to kind of hedge my bets on I'm not gonna get it perfectly right the first time. And the reason I can do that is because I buy extra. So you can see we've got plenty of extra on this end. Now I've already cut an angle on this end, but because there's no bend yet, we've not defined lengths for either side of the bend. So right here is where I'm gonna make the bend at. So I'm probably gonna scoot over another inch from where the bend's supposed to be, maybe a 1/2 inch. And then once I make the bend, I can trim off both ends to get everything just right. So with my bend, I erred on the side of caution. I went an inch over and made my bend. A ½ inch would have been fine because I ended up taking a ½ inch off the end, and that got it really close to this break right here. Now an issue I'm having, y'all probably won't have, is you can see it's not wanting to mate up real good with the body right there. And the problem is, this is kind of a radius, and then I feel like right up in here, you can kind of feel another radius. One option, I could do another cut right here, and that would probably relieve it and help it come in right here. But I feel like the bolts are gonna pull it in pretty good. If they don't, I can always do that relief cut. I'd like it to look straight though. If I do a bunch of cuts, you're gonna be able to see like all these weird bend things. And I just want it to look clean and nice sweep through here. I think I'm gonna go ahead and lay out probably 3 holes here. These seem really similar to size. I gotta measure them real quick. But I'm probably gonna come off here maybe an inch, come off that end maybe an inch, and then whatever the middle of that is, put 3 bolts and we'll see how that pulls everything in. Really good. It did exactly what I was hoping. The bolts pulled this thing up against the body, got rid of that big gap that was there. Did have to take the fender off to drill this hole right here, which I've been needing to pull that thing off anyways to clean up some welds and paint that thing. So no big deal there. Not a whole lot to say about it. It's pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna go ahead, lay these holes out and go ahead and get them drilled. So that's got this thing bolted on. That's all the bolts I'm going to put in this thing. I think it looks really good. Everything's spaced out really good. You want to be careful where you put your holes at, that you don't run into like the corner of the toolbox, or maybe wear some kind of braces or something like that. So be mindful of that when you're laying out your holes. The bolts I decided to use for this are 3/8 button heads. They're 1 inch in length, and that seems to be the perfect length to leave you enough room for like a washer, a lock washer, and your nut. So now that we got this part out of the way, it's time we take our steps, which I've decided to use the diamond plate steps that are already on here. I think they're kind of cool. And we got to figure out how we're going to get these things welded up on here. So let's go ahead and get into it. So you can see the fit right now is not very good. I was talking about how there was like a radius there. Well, you can really see it exaggerated right here. So however they skinned this, maybe the difference between these two, I'm not sure. But we did have some kind of radius here, and I've worked that in with these sliders. So we're just gonna have to do a little trimming. There's some stuff on the end. There's this little weird kickoff here. So just a little grinding, cutting, working it in. We'll get these things to fit up real nice. That really didn't take too much grinding to get this fit up right. The main thing was kind of getting that little radius out. I just kind of cut a little chunk off there, ground down some old welds and stuff. Fit up really nice. I like this little wrap right here. I'm gonna have to tap it in just a little bit, but I think it looks really good. I just kind of tacked it up there, kind of figured out where level was, where it looked right. I wish this edge and the fender were like right there in line with each other. That's about as close as I could get. On these Jeeps, I feel like this is always an awkward transition from the step to the fender, even in a stock application. So I'll go ahead and pull it back off so I can weld the other side. I'm thinking I might end up putting a plate up under here somehow, tying it all in together to make it the bottom of that solid, because it is kind of a place for stuff to hook on right now. It'd be nice if it was boxed in to be a little bit more solid. So let's go ahead and get this thing pulled back off. All welded up here, it looks really good. I'll tell you all a little trick, because everybody's going to see these welds and you want them to look nice. I'd start back here, which these don't look too bad, but I always start my welds, I tack both sides heavy, and then I start my welds where I don't have to worry so much about cleaning them up. So now that we got this all welded up, I got my little cardboard template here. It's going to look something like that. I've got it traced out over here. This is a pretty similar gauge piece of metal. There's a couple of holes I got to fill in. This is recycled. But I'm going to go ahead and get this cut out, and that'll get this all plated up. And I think I'm going to add me a little face plate right here that I might drill and tap, and then I'll have two spots to connect the fender to the end of this step right here. Getting a little bit better with that plasma cutter. It sure speeds things up versus using like a cutoff wheel or something. And like this, since I'm welding all the edges, I wasn't really concerned about nice clean edges. The end here, I am going to cap this. I've got this weird little notch missing here because of however or whatever they took this off of. And then I just followed the cut I had here, and I'm guessing my edge should be right about there. That angle should all line up real good. If not, I can always grind that down to fit. I think I'm ready to burn this in though. Well, I think that about wraps it up, y'all. I got the end cap, I got everything welded, and of course I covered it all in that flat black paint, just like I've been doing on the bumpers. I like having that little touch of new with all this old. I think it looks really clean this way. Now, before I bolted this back on, and before I bolted that fender back on, I did kind of do a faux Tina paint job. I tried to blend it in, kind of make it look like nothing had been done here. And it turned out pretty good, especially on camera. It's really hard to tell. And in person, I think once I get a good little layer of dust and dirt on this thing, everything will kind of blend together. It'll look really good. Now, something I did want to mention at the end of this, and I have no connection to this guy. He's not a sponsor or anything. I just want to throw this information out there for y'all. There's a website, and I believe it's bigwillyjeep.com. I'll link it down below. But anyways, he sells some really nice rock sliders for these old flat fenders. And you can buy them welded together or not welded together. Of course, if you weld them together yourself, you're going to save some money. But I think they're around like the $350 range, something like that. They're a little pricey. But to be honest with you, I almost ordered me a set to put on here. What it really comes down to though is time versus money. It's like in these, I'd say by the time I do the other side, I'll probably have 5 or 6 hours in both of these. Whereas you can order that set and weld them together in a couple hours. But the cost difference, like I said, those are $350 I think. I think I've got about $100 in this set, including the hardware and buying the material and everything, which I'm actually going to link where I got this tubing at too down in the description. It's this really cool metal site and they ship it right to your door. It worked out really good. I did consider taking this one step further and bolting something to that J-cut piece up underneath to the floor pan somehow. I think to really do that right, you would have to run some kind of upper floor support to really sandwich all that together, because the sheet metal for your floor pans is just too thin of a gauge. It wouldn't add anything. The people I talked to that have made rock sliders this way, they say they run them this way and it's totally fine. Well, I think that's about it. Really happy with how these turned out. They're plenty beefy. I think they look great on the Jeep and they should perform great. I appreciate y'all checking out this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it and I'll see y'all next time.